Hello, everyone. My name is Nate Bailey. Welcome to my Module 12 case study. On Section 1, just to take a look at the scenario. So what has happened, illegal copies of computer programs are being produced and distributed to teachers in the St. Regis School. Information about this is being reported to the principal. When and where? St. Regis School. It's 25 miles from the nearest large city. It serves grades K through 8. Who's involved? Mr. Sample, he is the principal. Mrs. Lynn, she's the library media specialist who has illegally copied these discs. Mrs. Williams, an experienced teacher, and Mrs. Brandon, who is an experienced teacher but new to the district, are both third grade teachers who have accepted these discs or the discs have been given to. And then Mrs. Evans, the PTA president, assisted Mrs. Lynn in the production of these illegal copies. On Section 2, just to take a look at legal or ethical issues. So harm that could be possible as the software companies that made the disk will be harmed by losing their money. Laws that have been broken, the laws of the 1976 U.S. Copyright Act. Those are the things that have been broken by Mrs. Lynn and then Miss Evans. And then breach. The librarian/media specialist, Miss Lynn, has breached her duty as a media specialist of understanding copyright laws that come with these software programs. The teachers that accept these discs, Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Brandon, any others that have accepted them may potentially have breached their duty if they are aware of the fact or knowledgeable of copyright laws or that these discs were illegal copies. And then PTA President Mrs. Evans, who assisted in the production of the copied software, may have also breached her duties if she is knowledgeable of these copyright laws and understands what she's doing when she produces these. Section 3, what has happened? In one sentence, copyright laws have been broken after St. Regis School purchased software, and then Mrs. Lynn and Miss Evans made illegal copies of it, distributed to teachers. Section 4, the facts. Once again, Mr. Sample, he is the principal for 3 years. Mrs. Lynn, the librarian/media specialist and computer lab teacher. Mrs. Williams, experienced third grade teacher that has been at the district her whole career. And then Mrs. Brandon, third grade teacher that has taught but is new to the district. And then lastly, Mrs. Evans, the PTA president. Mrs. Lynn and Mrs. Evans have produced illegal copies of software that is produced or that was purchased. And then Mrs. Brandon has met with Mr. Sample about these illegal copies and talked about copyright laws. The place where this is occurring, St. Regis School. It's a rural school, 25 miles near the largest city, or the next largest city. Serves grades K through 8. High school students in the district must travel to the big city, which is 25 miles away. The program, 420 students, which requires only 2 teachers in each grade level. 1 special education teacher serves students of grades K through 4, and then 1 5 through 8. The PTA, Parent Teacher Association, who hosts a spring fling for extra funds, have allowed the computer lab to purchase 20 computers, or the computer lab that has 20 computers to purchase new software programs for the computer lab only. And then these illegal copies are being made for classroom use that were initially meant for the computer lab. In Section 5, just to review and look at all of the information once again, could the conflict, the situation, or decision be damaging to stakeholders of the community? Well, the illegal copies could have effects on a lot of different people. So Mrs. Lynn, who reproduced these, Mrs. Evans, who assisted in the production of these, and then Mrs. Williams, Mrs. Brandon, and any other teachers who accept these and continue to use them, all are going to have or be possibly affected by this. And then, of course, Mr. Sample, because he is aware of it by or via Mrs. Brandon, and then St. Regis PTA, just because Mrs. Evans is the PTA president. So consultation, have all the relevant stakeholders been confronted and consulted? So Mrs. Brandon and Mrs. Lynn are already aware of the situation and the possible liabilities. Mr. Sample was consulted by Mrs. Brandon about the situation. Mrs. Williams and any other teacher that accepted these copies, they might not be aware of what has happened, but they know that they have been given some new software. The school district probably is not aware of what is happening right now. It's just kept within the small circle of teachers and principal. And the PTA probably also is not aware of what is happening, just Mrs. Lynn and Mrs. Evans. On section 5, the last part, can I learn more about the situation and do I know enough to make a decision? Things I'm uncertain of are the district policies about copyright law, PTA and Mrs. Evans' knowledge of copyright law, and then other elementary teachers' knowledge of this copyright law. They understand that they're getting new software, but if they continue to use it, do they know that they're what copyright laws are, or do they know that they're breaching their duty of understanding copyright laws and so forth? The other thing I'm uncertain of is there any other possible funding that we can have for new software, or are there alternative / cheaper programs? And then based on this information, it makes a very difficult decision, that's for sure. Section 6. So to identify a couple of options, option 1 is to do nothing. Let the copies save the school some money. Teachers get to use the programs for free. Option 2, destroy copies and fire Mrs. Lynn for disregarding the school policy. Then option 3, remove any illegal copies to remove liability. Have a faculty meeting to discuss proper policies and procedures when copying and distributing materials. Send out a school-wide email that displays district policies for copyright laws, and then invite Mrs. Lynn and Mrs. Evans to a meeting to discuss possible options for alternate fundraisers and alternate / cheaper programs that may help the district. On section 7, just to look at the pros and cons of all these possible options. Option 1, which is do nothing. There's really no pros in this situation. The cons are just teachers continue to violate these copyright laws. So we still have a ton of liability. Mr. Sample and the district could be sued because of all this liability. And the PTA could lose more money or have to gain more money, whichever we look at it, to help pay for some kind of litigation or new software programs. The next option, fire Mrs. Lynn and destroy CDs, illegal copies. Pros, set an example of district policy. Everyone knows that you abide by the law, that's for sure. And then the other pros, remove liability by destroying the CDs themselves. The cons, teachers may be upset due to the harsh decision-making and firing of Mrs. Lynn. Upset teachers for losing the software. Now they don't have it anymore in their classrooms, and then teachers may fear or may leave in fear because Mr. Sample is a little harder-nosed teacher or principal than some others in other districts. And then the last option, continued meetings and discussions, and then, of course, the destroying of the illegal copies. So the pros of this situation, removes the liability by destroying the CDs. It's a more reasonable decision, and it holds the teachers more accountable for district policy when you have all these things stated, and we've been discussing and analyzing these policies as well. And the cons for this one, still going to have upset teachers for losing this software. You would have to pay for the software, of course, and then for all of these situations, there's always going to be a possibility of someone still breaking copyright laws. And then in section 8, choosing the best option. So after evaluating and everything, I believe the best option would be to remove any illegal copies, just so we don't have any liabilities. I would have a faculty meeting to discuss proper policies and procedures when copying and distributing materials. After the faculty meeting, I would send out a school-wide email that displays district policies for copyright laws. And this could be displayed not only for the teacher's use, but for student use as well. These displayed policies would promote student and adult success and well-being, which is great. And then I would invite Mrs. Lynn and Mrs. Evans to a meeting to discuss possible options for alternate fundraisers and alternate cheaper programs that may also help the district. Then in section 9, how would we implement this decision, or how would I implement my decision? The faculty first would be sent an email about a short meeting with the time and location. Step 2, during the faculty meeting, we would communicate, analyzing, and evaluate policies about copyright law. There would be an explanation for this reasoning of this meeting. Step 4, There would be an explanation of why we shouldn't break copyright laws. I would explain that if a teacher is trying to obtain new software, that he or she should just let me know, and we can find ways to make a reasonable purchase. And then after these explanations, the faculty would be informed of another email that would contain a copy of district copyright policy so they could be discussed and then hung up throughout the classrooms, throughout the halls, and so forth, um, just so we can hold everyone accountable. And then step 7, schedule a meeting with Mrs. Lynn, Mrs. Evans, and the PTA to discuss possible options for alternate fundraisers and alternate programs that could help the district once again. And here are my references. Thank you for watching.